Now let's take a look at the concept of super keyword. So I'll create a new package over here and name it as super keyword. And in this, let's say I'm gonna create some classes. I'll create a class animal, and we're gonna add a behavior in this class. Let's say a method, where I'm gonna create a method as sound, right? So in this, I'm gonna pass on the sound as generic sound. So generic sound, let's say. Same way, I'm gonna create a child class. Let's say a dog class. So a dog class. This should be a child class of animal class. So this should extends animal, and this should actually override the sound method as well. So in this sound method, we're gonna write dog sound. Let's say. Now if I create a test class, and in this, if I gonna call the method sound from let's say if I create a test class over here with the main method, and if I call this overridden method, if I say dog d equal to new dog and say d dot sound, this will gonna call the method from the dog class itself. It will gonna give the dog sound, right? Similarly, if even if I the references of the parent class, if I say animal a equal to new dog, then also you can see that with the overriding concept, the method of the child class will only be called, right? So in case of like overriding, only the child class behavior is called, right? But at times it happens that you want to call the child class behavior as well as this is the child class behavior, and along with this you want to call the parent class behavior as well. Like it should send the dog sound as well as the animal sound should also be sent. So what we can do, we can simply add a keyword over here with the name as super. This should be super dot sound. Sorry, super dot sound. Right. So now if you go over here, so if you run this, you're going to see that the generic sound is also called and the dog sound is also called. So super keyword is used to access the component of a super class only, right? There has to be inheritance when you are using the super keyword. So keyword is used to call the super class version of a overridden method from the subclass. So it means like if in case you want to call the original behavior of the superclass, like you want the overridden method to be called as well as you want to call the original behavior of that method as well. So like in this case, we have called the overridden method sound as well, and we have called the original sound method as well with the help of the super keyword. So that is where the super keyword is. The usage is very small. I mean, it's very simple. So now another example. Let's say we were discussing about constructor chaining in our last example. So what I'll do, I'll gonna create one more class over here and name it as let's say bulldog. So bulldog, we're gonna have a parent class that is let's say the dog class, right? And what I'll do, the experiment that we're gonna do over here is in all these three classes, let's create constructor for all these classes. So let's overload this constructor. The default constructor, we're going to create a non-argumented constructor, and in this I'm gonna write animal constructor, and in dog I'm gonna write public dog. This should be dog constructor, and in bulldog it should be public bulldog bulldog constructor. Now what happens in method in constructor chaining, let's say if I go to test class and I'll comment out this, I'm gonna create an object of bulldog. So when we say bulldog b equal to new bulldog, so which constructor will be called now? So whenever an object is created, which constructor will be called? The constructor of the bulldog will be called, as well as along with that it will gonna call the constructor of dog class. The dog class will gonna have a parent class as animal. The animal constructor will also be called, and this animal class is by default extending the class object, right? So by default the root hierarchy is the class object. So here the execution will gonna start from first animal, like the super parent, then the dog is a parent of bulldog, and then the bulldog constructor will be called. So if I go to this test, if I create an object of this, first the topmost hierarchy parent constructor will be called. If I run this, you're gonna see first the animal constructor is called, then the dog constructor is called, and then the bulldog constructor is called. So this is like constructor chaining, right? This child class is calling its parent constructor, the parent constructor is calling its own parent constructor, right? And the topmost hierarchy is the class object. So that is how if we take a look at this hierarchy over here, this is what constructor chaining is. So first the topmost is this object, the class, the subclass will call the constructor of animal class, and finally the animal call will call the object constructor, right? So this object class is the topmost hierarchy, right? In the heap, first the object class object will be created, and then further parent, and then child object will be created, right? Because the constructor of the topmost class will be called. So whenever you create an object of bulldog, so if the bulldog is extending any parent, that parent constructor will be called. But if you go to that particular parent and it has another parent at the topmost hierarchy, then this topmost constructor will be called. And by default, this animal class, it extends the object class, because object is the topmost class in the hierarchy. So the object of object class will be called, and the by default constructor of the object class will be called. So that is the reason, I mean, if we call any method from this parent class, we should be able to see the topmost class methods as well, that is the object class methods as well, right? So this is what I mean, inheritance tree, it starts from the root itself. Now let's say if I go to the parent class of bulldog, and let's say I overload this constructor. I'm gonna write something like int x, and if I save this, you're gonna see that we are getting error over here with the child class constructor, because now it is not able to find the by default constructor of the parent class. If you mouse over here, then you can see that implicit super constructor dog is undefined, must explicitly invoke another constructor. So this is where the next use of super keyword is. So in case you want to explicitly call the overloaded constructor of the parent class dog, then you need to add a super keyword over here and pass on the numeric argument. And if we go over here, if I run this now, you're gonna see that the parent class constructor is also invoked, right? So this is where the use of super keyword is with the constructor. And initially we have seen that how to call like how super keyword will actually gonna work in the case of method as well. We can call well, the method of a super class while at the time of overriding the method like of a super class from the child class. So if in case we want the super class behavior should also be there along with the child class behavior, so we can call it with the help of the super keyword. So this is what the usage of super keyword in terms of a class and in terms of a constructor. And if we take a look at this slide, so that is what is written for the superclass constructor. If we don't call the constructor of a superclass, the compiler implicitly calls the default constructor of the superclass, right? So as soon as we create an object of a child class, the superclass object constructor is all automatically called, right? So but if the constructor of a superclass is overloaded, then it is possible to call it from the child class by using the keyword super and provided the argument in that particular super keyword, right? So this is what the usage of a super keyword, and this is what we have looked in the constructors as well. All right, thank you.